Scott, what exactly is crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding is using the internet to do the modern version of passing the hat. There are different portals available that market different kinds of deals. One sets an investment project horizon, lays out what the project description is, and determines what amount of funds one wants to raise, and then uses that portal to solicit investors.
Why should real estate companies care about crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding is really the wave of the future for entrepreneurial developers that want to be at the forefront of the latest financing and technological techniques in fundraising. Crowdfunding allows them to tap into an entirely new pool of investors that they have not in the past sought money from.
Is there a size of project that makes sense for crowdfunding?
It's going to depend on, of course, how much capital one needs for the deal. A lot of the deals that have been done up to this point have been in the $5 to $10 million range, but we've certainly seen some that are smaller than that, and we've even seen some that are much larger than that.
Is there a regulatory framework, securities laws that are applicable to crowdfunding?
There is. When an investment takes the form of security, which is usually the case when one has a limited partnership or a joint venture or other kind of entity that holds real estate, you have to look to see what the investors' expectations are. And if they're intending to generate their return solely from the efforts of others, a developer, a manager, some other person like that, then that's all the hallmarks of being a security, in which case the SEC, the Federal Securities and Exchange Commission, has an interest in the transaction, and depending on how it's structured, many of the states, in fact all the states, have their own state-wide regulation as well.
So we're used to the word accredited investors for real estate investments. Does that concept apply to crowdfunding?
It certainly does. There are some types of crowdfunding that can be used that can be offered to investors of any size, of any level of sophistication. There's no net worth requirement at all. These are what one would consider retail investors. But those transactions generally have a cap on the amount of funds that can be raised. If you're looking to raise a larger amount or not have to deal with some of the administrative burdens of dealing with a large group of unaccredited investors, if you're willing to go more to the accredited market, then that's also an alternative.
Now we know foreign investors are very interested in U.S. real estate as an investment vehicle. Can foreign investors participate in crowdfunding?
Yes, they certainly can. It's definitely permitted under the U.S. rules. The question is going to be on the flip side as to what home country regulations require, and that's going to be a country-by-country analysis. Most jurisdictions outside the U.S. have a private placement exemption for offerings made to small groups of institutional or sophisticated investors, but that's something that you'd have to check with local counsel on a particular deal just to make sure that you're in safe territory.
You mentioned earlier the word portals. What is that, and how does that work with the crowdfunding?
Sure. So the idea is to find someplace on the internet where the advertising for the transaction occurs. Portal is just sort of a shorthand for a website that advertises transactions and looks to match buyers and sellers.
Is crowdfunding expensive?
It all depends on what your expectations are, how much funds you want to raise, who you want to be involved in your deal, and again, which sort of portal you want to choose. The portals are all set up in different ways to accommodate different registration requirements that they face under the securities laws. The most inexpensive type is really just sort of a bulletin board where the portal posts deals but doesn't do any work to curate them. On the other end of the spectrum, you'll get more of a full service kind of experience where the operators of the portal are helping to screen deals, screen investors, and even beat the bushes to find investors for you.
And do you provide guidance to clients about the different portals?
We do. We help with the legal due diligence. There are certain portals that are better known or better understood than others. We also check to make sure that they have the correct regulatory registrations and requirements being satisfied, depending on how their business model is structured. And if you get it wrong, it could be an expensive mistake for a developer. If an unregistered intermediary is used, then investors could have a rescission right, which means that the developer has to pay back not just the principal amount of the investment, but also there's a statutory interest rate that's also imputed.
And so if you're at a cocktail party and someone walks up to you and says, I'd like to do a crowdfunding for a real estate investment, what do you say to them?
Absolutely. We've done it for a number of clients and we can help you as well.